Football Friday.
Yeah.
With Joey Harrington
Story
on
time is
1080
old
The
news.
Fan. Central Catholic great, Oregon great. Joey Harrington.
NFL below average.
Professional soccer team owner and WNBA.
Yeah. What are you laughing at?
Oh,
Our
carts
moles
and horses.
Our moles.
Let's not put one before the other.
Oh. Well, our moles place you at the WNBA announcement press conference.
Seems a little conspicuous.
I was there.
Why?
Conspicuous or inconspicuous?
I guess it would be
inconspicuous.
Well,
right?
I guess it would be.
I actually don't know what conspicuous actually means, but I do know how to use inconspicuous, and so I was just curious.
Conspicuous would be like clearly visible.
Yeah, like he was hiding
standing out.
You were hiding in the background.
Inconspicuous.
Yes.
I was not inconspicuous at the WNBA announcement.
Well, you kind of were, though.
Inconspicuous? I was sitting right in the middle.
Oh.
I was sitting next to the tallest dude there. I was sitting right next to David Lucas.
I think why we say that is because we were told that you weren't, like, you're Joey Harrington. You're a big deal. Yeah. Like, you're just right in the middle of, like, the media scrum, or just just people in the. That's inconspicuous.
You should have been on the podium.
You should have been up there. Yes.
Yeah, you're an owner.
You're like, yes.
Why?
Because you own part of the team.
I was invited as an owner of the Thorns. I was invited to the announcement by the ownership group, but I am not an owner of the WNBA franchise.
Okay. Again, I feel like he's choosing his words carefully. Will you be an owner of the WNBA franchise?
That and that is not a conversation on, and I'm speaking. I was going to somehow use conspicuous or inconspicuous. I'm speaking truthfully. That is honestly not a conversation that has even been had. So I can't give you a.
It will be had. I feel fairly confident.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know. I don't know if they're going to approach the Thorns ownership group in the same way that it was put together. Previously, or I don't know if they're going to put the WNBA team together the same way they put the Thorns ownership group together. So I don't know.
Do you, you being a Thorns investor, I don't know how much you know about that family. The family that brought the WNBA here is the same family that owns the
correct
the Thorns. And I just don't think a lot of our listeners know much about them. Do you have any insight as to what they're like or who they are?
A little bit. It's interesting. It's one of those kind of 6 degrees of separation, or 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where Alex, so it's the Bhathal family. I guess the ownership group is Raj Sports. Alex and Lisa are the kids. I mean, I say kids, I'm guessing they're early 50s. And are the heads of the organization. Alex Bhathal is actually good friends with my agent Dave Dunn. So there was one of those. They're based out of Newport Beach. Their business was initially swimwear. They have gotten into the sports and real estate world. I don't think it was their first venture, but they are partial owners of the Sacramento Kings. And so that was kind of how they transitioned from the Kings, or how they got their foot in the door with the Thorns, and then it transferred to WNBA. So yeah, I mean, it's what I can say about them is they've been fantastic. I mean, our entire group that wanted to become a part of this was pitched to them as, look, you need some sort of local presence.
Yeah.
Right? The Timbers and the Thorns especially. I mean, you want to talk about local and rabid and a fan base that isn't just going to sit there and say, yeah, sure, we'll be run by a hedge fund out of New York. That's not the Thorns fan base, right? The Thorns fan base is community, it's local, it's Portland, it's invested, and it's base right here. And so we pitched that to them, and they were all ears. They listened. They weren't high and mighty. They weren't pretentious and saying, well, we know best because we've been working with the Sacramento Kings. No, they were receptive to the ideas that we brought them, and continue to be that way. Like we've talked about, I'm a, 0.00000001 owner, but I can still make a phone call and feel like my opinion is at least going to be listened to, right? They may not act on it.
Yeah,
and they may
bench
say,
that goaltender.
What's that?
Bench that goaltender. Make a call.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but that has been my experience with the Bhathal family, and I don't see any reason why that wouldn't continue, and they wouldn't continue to be great stewards of women's professional sports in our city.
I just love the fact that you have a billionaire family who has put 2 feet firmly in the ground in Portland and invested a couple $100 million, are building new facilities.
Right.
And for the first, I mentioned this when we got the WNBA, whether you're a fan of women's sports, whether you're a fan of the WNBA or not, when's the last time that a really, really rich company decided that they wanted to come to Portland to invest here? And to me, that is a win for the city. I couldn't be more fired up that someone from the outside's like, no, we believe in this and we believe in this city and we can grow it here. I don't know how, if you're from this area, that you can't be 100% in on this.
Well, and here's the thing. If you're not 100% in on it, here's the kicker for me. I would not necessarily be as gung-ho like you are for any billionaire to come in and say, I'm going to invest in Portland, because there's such an opportunity here. There's plenty of opportunity for a billionaire to come in and say, I'm going to invest, and then I'm going to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah,
right? I'm going to invest. I'm going to do what's right for me. I'm going to cash out, and then I'm going to sit on the beach in wherever in the Bahamas. That's not what's going on here, right? And that was initially why I got involved, is because I wanted to make sure that Portland stayed Portland, right? That Portland was represented, that Portland's interests were at the table. But you know what? I don't need to worry about that, because this family and the people in the organization, the people that I have met, have done nothing but confirm that is also their intention as well. And that's, so there's your convincing, right? You've got your billionaire family ownership group coming in that not only wants to do well by the team, but wants to do well by the city and the community.
Well, that's good. Early returns are good, because we're all a little wary of the super rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's great.
How I'm curious about what their driveway would look like.
Oh.
I guess that's a very, my theory, the wealthier you are, the worse your driveway is. It's a nightmare.
No, what are you talking about? No. We literally had this argument 6 months ago.
Nope.
And your position was the complete opposite.
No, he's saying,
you said the wealthier you get, that you then get the half circle driveways, and you get
No, he misspoke. He said the worse it gets. He means the more difficult it is to navigate.
Yes, the rich have a driveway that's a mile long. There's 17 turns involved in it. You have to navigate hedges.
Sure. Yeah.
Like most people, it's just, here's my driveway, I pull into it. When you're wealthy, going into your driveway, there's a gate involved. There's a lot. There's a lot that happens. The richer you are, the more difficult it is to navigate your driveway.
No, I have a question about that. Do they live? I mean, you mentioned several.
Yeah, they're in Sacramento, I think, right?
But do any of them
Newport.
live here?
Newport.
You said
Newport, California.
So they all live down that way?
That was the connection. My agent was based out of Newport Beach, and it was one of those. I met Alex and Lisa for the first time, and we were just playing the world connection game, and it's like, oh my God, you're friends with Dave Dunn? He's like, and Alex says, yeah, I had dinner with him last week. And Dave was such a wonderful guy, Justin Herbert's agent as well, and just a great influence and mentor for me. So yeah, it was one of those crazy world connections.
Small world. This could be a dud, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I'm curious your opinion, because a lot of us don't have a conduit into this world, and you may. So we were talking about the Bhathal family. Is that their name? Bhathal.
Yes.
And they are the owners of the Thorns and now bringing WNBA here. This area has just not. It's just not known for big business. We know that. There's a lot of money here, but it's not the most entrepreneurial money. You know what I'm saying? Like, the wealthy don't really invest in sports. I know Phil Knight has tried and may continue to try, but general question, what is your assessment of that world here in Portland and in the surrounding area about the entrepreneurial sort of big idea, big investment world in this area?
Wow, that's a dud.
That
Is
a big,
it?
Yeah, just real quick. You're like, let me drop this on you.
Is it a dud?
It's not a dud, but that's a big. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question back before we get into this. Do you intend to talk any Duck football?
Yes.
Okay, then we should probably save that for another time.
Well, I don't want to save it for another time.
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to go to bed.
So it's a big conversation. Okay. Well, if
I think it's a big conversation.
Yeah. Okay,
I
that's
think
good.
That,
that's what I want to do, because I think that would be really good conversation. I think we should do it. I mean, it is a bye week.
For sure. I think that would be a good conversation to have. But you know what's really interesting too is I make a really concerted effort to stay out of that world.
Do you?
Right? And so I think a lot of my opinions around that would be based on my personal hesitance to truly jump in with both feet.
Yeah.
Right. Even my venture into the Thorns ownership world was done with the intent, or with the foundation of, I'm going to make sure that this new ownership group does right by the people in the North End, right? By the fans behind the net, by, not necessarily the people that can afford to buy the stadium. You see what I mean? And I completely understand. Like, I do, based on, working with the foundation and, being in the NFL, and I have a key into that world. But a lot of the times I don't like that world.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know, this conversation may go in a way that takes up a couple commercial breaks,
Okay.
which we don't have if we want to talk Duck football.
Damn you, Joey. You're so deep.
Good in being thoughtful.
Well, I want to, we'll circle back on it. You are definitely an interesting guy to ask that, because you are more one of us than them. At the same time, you do have, like you said, you have tentacles in that world, and
He's like a hybrid.
Yeah.
you are. Yeah, it's just an interesting thing that
Did
I've
you call
never.
me a Prius?
Well, you can go with a Daywalker if you want. With that, you can be one of those.
Yeah,
An Ionic 5?
Hey, suppose those are good rigs.
it's just. I'm putting in my notes. We're gonna do it eventually. Maybe.
All right,
maybe.
good. I'm on board.
Yeah, because I'm curious your thoughts. It's just a hard world to get any info on,
Yeah.
And you have a little info. It sounds like. All right. So what do you feel? Oregon, they look great against Oregon State. Are you more at ease? How at ease are you about the early problems that we discussed last week?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should talk about investment in sports.
God, what an ass.
How do I feel? I feel good. I was never one to jump off a bridge after 1 or even 2 weeks. I think here's the thing that I liked. I guess let me start and say kind of the obvious. Oregon State rushed 3 a good majority of that time, right? there was a definite imbalance of talent.
Yes.
And as you know, Suke will tell you, like, where does that okay, let me ask this. Give me the two position areas that imbalance of talent most shows up.
Well, I mean, if you want to just say line play is always where it shows up. So if you want to say the two biggest areas, it's offense and defensive line. Because you can.
And then number two. What's number two?
Two for me is secondary guys. When you have
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And that's it. It's the big guys who are athletic, and it's the little guys who are athletic.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the big schools get those guys and the little schools do not. And Oregon State has become a mid-major. Not for any reason, any fault of their own, but because they got left behind with the Mountain West. Half their team transferred out, and now they are, talent-wise, a mid-major. And that played out up front. And they went about it trying to beat Oregon a certain way. And it didn't work. So there was a talent deficiency that led to it. However, what I liked to see is they changed the launch point, right? So this is what we did all the time. Like, my starting center in the Fiesta Bowl was a 280-pound redshirt freshman walk-on.
Yikes.
Right? You know, I can't tell you how many my starting center as a junior for part of the year was a 265-pound walk-on. Like, we would have a guy or two on the offensive line, and then Niels and Bukas would literally just play offensive line magic and put together this group that just played incredible. But the way that we helped our O-line is we'd change the launch point. We'd take a three-step drop. We'd play action hard one way, we'd boot out the other way. You know, we would do we'd run an ISO play action and set up behind the right guard. We would full sprint left. We would half sprint right. And you saw Dylan Gabriel sometimes because of design and sometimes because he broke contain and extended the play. You saw him on different launch points. You know, what did we see those first couple of weeks? We saw guys coming clean off Boise State. I can think of 1, 2, 3 times. Right now, where they had a free rusher coming off the edge and him standing in the pocket.
And they should not have been.
Exactly. So if you've identified, right, we talked about last week, like, how do you do it? You know, is it offensive line or is it center making the line calls? Is it quarter making the protection adjustments? We don't know. However, you got to get it figured out. One of the ways to alleviate some of the pressure is to change what the quarterback's going to be.
Yep. If
they don't know where he's going to be, how are you going to dial up a pressure for it? Right, and that was what I really liked to see, is whether it was designed by Will Stein or whether it was, you know, Dylan just getting out of the pocket and making something. He changed his launch point, which put Oregon State on its heels, which then allowed that talent to just win. Right. So, am I convinced that everything is fixed? No. But I also wasn't convinced that the world was, you know, the sky was falling 2 weeks ago. So are they they're on the right track. They're doing the things. They've got a couple more weeks to get things right before it really hits the fan against Ohio State, and you better have it figured out by then. But that's, 3 weeks away?
Yeah. Yeah, you got UCLA and Michigan State. No offense to either one of those. UCLA is one of the worst teams in the country. Michigan State just doesn't have the horses. So this is like the perfect ramp up we were talking about. We just kind of, they took a 2-week hiatus at the beginning of the season. But that's when we looked at this and said, boy, this is a perfect ramp up before you get Ohio State at home.
Yeah, it was get healthy, you know, identify your problems, get healthy, fix your problems, and they're on that path.
Yeah, they had 32 total rushes in the Civil War. When you look at the advanced analytics, they had 5 run plays that were deemed unsuccessful. I mean, when you do that, that's, you want to, again, the recipe for protecting your quarterback and getting everything going like that. Do that over the course of an entire game, and that includes the backups, by the way, when the game was out of hand. You run the ball like that, and this is what the NFL's doing. When you look at teams that are having success right now, when you run the ball, it's there's no bigger friend to a quarterback than just running the football and being successful with it.
And you know what's really interesting, and I'm not sure if we talked about this, if we talked about it or if we talked about it on Talking Ducks on Thursdays on Root Sports. You like that?
What time?
Dang it.
Rat farts.
Come on, man.
Dang it, rat farts. How about on our YouTube channel, Talking Ducks? There you go. A lot of times, everybody says run the ball to set up the pass, run the ball to set up the pass. This may not be that type of team. What I saw was a quarterback who changed his launch point, who therefore was able to either have the time to get the ball down the field or extend a play and get the ball to 3. I mean, they have 3 legitimate wide receivers. Mm-hmm. It's not a defense isn't just going to have to cover Tez Johnson. Like, they have 3 legit wideouts that at any moment could bust a game open. So if you can protect Dylan and get the ball to those guys, and what I loved is they were working mid-range routes. It wasn't quick screens and fades all day. It was 12-yard curls. It was a 15-yard dig. It was a seam route, down the hash. And what does that do? It puts the defense on. It just gets them sitting back a little bit. So you can do what? So you can run the football, right? It doesn't have to be one way or the other. It doesn't have to be run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Therefore, you can throw. Some teams are built, and sometimes you got to figure this out as it goes. Some teams are built to throw the ball. Therefore, you can run, and maybe that's what this Oregon team becomes.
Yeah, building an identity.
Well, and stop shuffling the O-line. I'm saying when you don't have to shuffle that anymore. And we'll see what happens. There's some guys that are going to come off injury here. But
right.
that combination, again, left guard to right guard, new left guard, Poncho back to center. That was the one that kind of started clicking at Boise State, and they went with that, for the entire game against Oregon State when the starters ran, and that should be the line going forward, unless obviously Bedford coming back and, if he wins that job. But I think that's solidified in there too. And then guys should get more comfortable around each other and you start to gel a little bit. So, fingers crossed for a Duck fan that is a problem of the past, or that it keeps getting better.
Yeah, you get guys back from injury. You take a week off. You have a couple weeks, against UCLA, Michigan State, and then all of a sudden, guys in the community just start investing, in entrepreneurial sports ventures. Oh, sorry. Well, that was the other. That was the other topic that we weren't talking about.
Well, like any good radio host, you brought it back full circle. That's what the
like
greats.
How I did that?
That's what the greats do.
That's why he's on Talking Ducks on.
That's right.
On CW and YouTube, but we don't know when. It's
whenever it is.
Yeah, I don't know either. I record it on Mondays. I don't know when it goes out.
All right. Have a great little weekend.